The bar was louder than usual, but my attention wasn't on the noise. "Ethan," Daniel said, not looking up from his phone. "You want another drink?" "I'm good," I replied. Across the table, Sophie tilted her head. "To that thing all night," she said, nodding toward him. Daniel chuckled without lifting his eyes. "Work stuff." Sophie's gaze came back to me. "Work stuff," she repeated, like it was an excuse she'd heard too many times. I smiled, unsure where to look. "He's dedicated." "Or boring," she said lightly, taking a sip of her drink. I froze for a second. "That's a dangerous thing to say about your boyfriend." She shrugged. "Only if it's not true." Daniel laughed faintly at something on his phone. Sophie leaned closer, enough that I could smell her perfume. "Don't worry," she whispered. "He's not listening." "I can hear you," Daniel said, glancing up. "Then prove it," she teased. He shook his head and went back to typing. Sophie's eyes stayed on me. "So Ethan, tell me something interesting about you. Something Daniel doesn't know." I laughed. "That's a setup." "Maybe," she said, smiling, "but I'm curious." I thought for a moment. "I once hitchhiked across the coast because my car broke down." Her eyebrows lifted. "And you survived." "Impressive. I like to think so." She leaned back slightly, still smiling. "See? You're already more interesting than him tonight." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," she said quickly. "Just small talk." He smirked, clearly uninterested. The night dragged on with scattered conversation. Daniel spoke mostly about work. Sophie asked me questions about music, travel, even my worst habit. Time our hands met reaching for the appetizer plate. She didn't pull away right away. When the bill came, Daniel excused himself to take a call outside. "Always working," she said under her breath. "He's busy," I said, but it sounded weak even to me. She tilted her head again. "You always defend him." "He's my colleague," I replied. "And your boyfriend." She studied me. "And if he wasn't?" I didn't answer. Daniel returned, tossing cash on the table. "Ready?" "Yeah," I said, standing. Outside, the air was cool. Daniel checked his watch. "I've got to get up early." "Sophie, you okay to get an Uber?" She glanced at me. "Actually, Ethan, could you drive me home? My phone's almost dead, and I'd rather not wait for a stranger." I hesitated. Daniel clapped me on the shoulder. "Sure, he can. Ethan's a good guy." "Yeah," Sophie said, her lips curving. "He is." Daniel waved and walked toward his car. We stood there for a moment. "You don't have to," I said quietly. Her eyes glinted under the streetlight. "I want to." I opened the passenger door for her. She slid in without breaking eye contact. Drive started in silence. Streetlights flickered across her face as I focused on the road. "You're quiet," she said after a minute, trying not to say the wrong thing. "Who says there's a wrong thing?" she teased. "I work with Daniel. That's reason enough." She laughed softly. "You're careful. I like that. That's not what you said earlier, about you being careful." She shook her head. "I said you were interesting." "What's that supposed to mean?" She turned toward me, her knee brushing my leg. "It means I like people who surprise me." I gripped the wheel tighter. "Maybe not," she said lightly, "but you might anyway." We stopped at a red light. She tilted her head to look out the window. "I love this time of night. Everything feels possible." I glanced at her. "Or dangerous," she smiled without looking at me. "Sometimes they're the same thing." The light turned green. When we pulled up in front of her building, I put the car in park. "Here you are." "Thanks for the ride. Anytime." Her gaze lingered. "Oh, do you always play it safe?" "I try." She leaned closer, her hand resting on my arm. "It'll be our little secret." Asterisk for the first few blocks, neither of us spoke. The only sound was the low hum of the engine and the faint music from the radio. "You're really not going to talk to me?" Sophie finally said. "I thought you wanted quiet," I replied, keeping my eyes on the road. She laughed softly. "I asked you for a ride so we could sit in silence. Maybe you wanted to think." "No," she said, shaking her head. "I wanted to hear you." I glanced at her. Hear me say what? Anything? Music you like? Places you've been? Secrets you won't tell anyone else? That's a tall order for a 10-minute drive. Then make it count, she teased. I tapped the steering wheel. All right. I've always wanted to live near the ocean, but I hate swimming. She smiled. That's oddly charming. Why the ocean? Because it feels endless, and it doesn't care about you. That's kind of dark. It's honest, I said. Your turn. She tilted her head. I want to go to Paris and spend a whole day just sitting at a cafe, watching people walk by. That's less dark, she grinned. Ow. Daniel thinks it's a waste of time. Says I'd be bored in an hour. And you, I think I'd fall in love with the quiet, she said, her eyes glimmering. Or maybe with someone who understands it. The light ahead turned red. I slowed, and she leaned closer to glance at my phone mounted on the dash. Let's see what music you've got, she said, scrolling through without asking. I smirked. You're very comfortable in other people's space. Only when they let me in, she murmured. Her shoulder brushed mine as she found a song. This one, she said, pressing play. A slow, steady rhythm filled the car. Not bad, she added. I'm glad I passed your test. She looked at me, her voice dipping lower. Don't get too comfortable. I like to keep people guessing. Light turned green, but I took my time pulling forward. You always talk like that? I asked. Like what? Like every sentence could mean something else. Maybe every sentence does, she said with a half smile. Her perfume wrapped around me, warm and distracting. I kept my hand steady on the wheel, but my pulse was starting to race. So, she continued, you've never thought about what it would be like to do something reckless. I think about it, I admitted. I just usually decide against. That's what makes you interesting, Ethan. You hold back, but I can tell you want to let go. You don't know me that well, I said, trying to sound steady. Don't I? She countered. Last night at the bar you could have. Ignored me, but you didn't. I stared at the road. You're Daniel's girlfriend. And yet here we are, she said quietly. We drove through another stretch of lights. Every time we stopped, she seemed to inch closer. Why do you keep looking straight ahead? Because if I look at you too long, I might. I stopped myself. Might what? She asked, leaning in. Forget this is a bad idea. She smiled faintly. That's the best kind of idea. I shook my head. Not for me. You're playing it safe again. Safe keeps people from getting hurt, or it keeps them from feeling alive, she said, almost in a whisper. Her words lingered in the air. I turned onto her street, the quiet road lined with trees. You ever think, she said softly, that maybe Daniel's not the right one for me? That's not for me to say. She looked at me like she was searching for something. I just needed someone to tell me I'm right. I pulled up in front of her building and put the car in park. We're here. She didn't move. Instead, she turned toward me, her face lit by the dim glow from the dashboard. You know what? I think. She said, What? I think you're more fun than him. That's not the point, I replied. It is to me, she said, her voice barely above the hum of the engine. We sat in silence for a moment, the air thick with everything we weren't. Saying then, she leaned a little closer. Want to come in for a nightcap? The moment we stepped inside, the door clicked shut behind me. Nice place, I said, glancing around. It's just an apartment, Sophie replied, setting her bag down. But it's mine. Her voice had a softness to it, almost defensive. You want something to drink? She asked. Water's fine. Boring, she teased, heading to the kitchen. I was thinking wine. I'm driving. Then half a glass won't kill you, she called back. I sat on the couch, the cushions sinking under me. She returned with 2 glasses, the faint scent of fruit in the air. Here, she said, holding one out. Her fingers brushed mine. Slow, intentional. Thanks, I murmured. She sat beside me instead of taking the chair opposite. Our knees touched lightly, too close. She asked with a smirk. I forced a smile. Just unexpected, that's the best part. We sipped in silence for a moment, and she said, You know what the problem is with Daniel? I didn't answer right away. That's not my place to say. She shook her head. He'd never listens. I could tell him I won the lottery, and he'd nod without looking up from his phone. That's rough, I said quietly. It's more than rough. It's lonely, she admitted, eyes flicking to mine. When was the last time someone really listened to you? I'm not sure, I said honestly. She smiled faintly. Then maybe we both needed this. I set my glass down. Needed what? This, she said, gesturing between us. Someone actually paying attention. The radio in the corner switched to a slow, soft song, warm guitar chords filling the room. I like this one, she said, standing. Come on, to do what, dance? I laughed. I don't dance. Not well, maybe, she teased. But you can't tell me you've never tried. Before I could protest, she reached for my hand. I let her pull me up. The living room felt smaller with her so close. She rested her hands lightly on my shoulders. This is harmless, she said, swaying gently. I'm not sure about that, I replied, my hands hovering before settling on her waist. Her eyes searched mine. If you were sure it wouldn't be fun, the warmth from her skin bled through her thin blouse. The slow rhythm of the song seemed to sync with my heartbeat. You're thinking too much, she whispered. I'm thinking just enough. I countered. Liar, she said with a small smile. You're wondering what happens if you don't step back? She wasn't wrong. Every second felt like a step toward something I couldn't take back. I don't want to make a mistake, I said quietly. Maybe it's not a mistake, she replied. Maybe it's just a moment. The music filled the silence between us. She leaned her head closer, her hair brushing my cheek. Sophie, I started. This isn't a good idea. Then why aren't you letting go? I had no answer. My grip on her waist tightened just slightly. She smiled, not wide but knowing. See? You feel it too.
Yeah, the song ended, but neither of us moved.
Want another drink? She asked softly. I probably shouldn't. But then you definitely should, she said, slipping away toward the kitchen. When she came back, she handed me the glass and sank onto the couch beside me again. This time, she sat closer. You're really not used to people sitting this close, are you? She asked. Not when they have a boyfriend I work with, I said. Her eyes softened. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty, Ethan. I just don't. Want to feel invisible anymore? I looked at her. You're not invisible. Not to you, she said. That's why I like being around you. Her fingers grazed mine as she took her glass back. Careful, I murmured. She tilted her head. Why? Afraid you'll like it? Before I could respond, a buzz cut through the moment. Her phone lit up on the coffee table. Daniel. She glanced. At it, then at me. Aren't you going to answer? I asked. She let it ring, her eyes never leaving mine. No, she said simply. Asterisk, Sophie's phone stopped buzzing. She smirked. He'll just ask if I'm home, and I am technically. Technically? I asked. She tucked one leg under herself, leaning closer. You're here. That makes it different how? Her eyes traced my face like she was trying to read something between the lines. You tell me. I took a sip of my drink to buy time. You seem comfortable. I am, she said. You make it easy. That's dangerous. Only if you let it be. She tilted her head, studying me. So why haven't you ever dated anyone serious? That's personal, I said, half smiling. Exactly why I'm asking. I shrugged. Timing, I guess. And maybe I'm picky. Picky how? I don't settle just to settle. She smiled faintly. Good answer, your turn, I said. Why are you still with Daniel? Her gaze lingered on the rim of her glass. Habit, maybe. Comfort, I don't know. That's not a good reason. It's not a bad one either, she replied softly. Sometimes it's easier than starting over. Her words hung there, heavier than the air between us. Do you love him? I asked. She hesitated, then gave a slow shrug. That's not exactly a yes, I said. Not exactly a no either. I set my glass down. You're complicated. She grinned. You're just figuring that out now. We both laughed quietly, but it didn't shake the tension. Tell me something you've never told anyone, she said suddenly. That's a big ask. Scared? I leaned back thinking, fine. I hate the idea of looking back one day and realizing I played it safe my whole life. Her eyes lit with interest. I like that. Now it's my turn. I waited. She looked right at me. Imagine my life without Daniel, and it feels lighter. I didn't know what to say. Don't overthink it, she said quickly. It's just a thought. A dangerous one, I murmured. Her smile curved slowly, like dangerous thoughts. The radio played a faint song in the background, but I barely heard it. Ethan, she said softly. Do you know what you're thinking right now? I'm trying not to, because if you let yourself, her voice trailed off. But the meaning was clear. I swallowed hard. Nothing can happen. Her gaze didn't waver. Says who? I do. She leaned just slightly closer. Then why are you still sitting here? I didn't answer. We sat there in silence for a beat. Her perfume drifting in the warm air. You're not like him, she said finally. That's kind of the point. I mean it. Daniel doesn't listen. Not really. You do. You notice things. Not enough reason to what? She asked, smiling. Cross a line? I shook my head. You're dangerous. You keep saying that like it's a bad thing. Her knee brushed mine again, and this time, neither of us moved away. I glanced at the clock. It's late. So, she asked. So, I should probably go. She tilted her head. Do you want to? That's not the question. Then, what is? I stood slowly, setting my glass on the table. The question is, what happens if? I don't leave. She rose too, stepping in front of me before I could reach the door. Maybe nothing, she said. Maybe something. Her eyes locked on mine, and the space between us felt electric. You're making this hard, I said. Quietly, good. I took a breath. Sophie, she didn't move. You're not going to forget tonight. I kept my head down at my desk, pretending to focus, but my phone lit up. Thanks for last night. You get me? I stared at it longer than I should have. Then I deleted it. At lunch, Daniel dropped his tray across from mine. Big news, looks like I'm in line for a promotion. That's great, I said, forcing a smile. Finally, right? It's been years. Sophie's going to be thrilled. Yeah, I'm sure. She's been saying I need to think about the future more. This should shut her up. I tried to laugh. Guess so. You're one of the few people I trust here, he said, leaning back. No games, no gossip. Solid. Thanks, I said quietly. He grinned. We should celebrate when it's official. Double date or something. My fork felt heavier in my hand. Maybe. The afternoon dragged. I told myself I was fine, that deleting Sophie's message meant something. But when I stepped out of my office after dark, she was leaning against the wall outside. Hey, she said, as if she belonged there. What are you doing here? I was nearby. She smiled faintly. Maybe I wanted to see you. I glanced around. This isn't a good idea. Then don't. Walk with me, she said, turning toward the street. I hesitated, then followed. You're impossible. Keep following me. So what does that make you? We walked side by side, the city lights stretching in reflections across puddles. Her shoulder brushed mine once, then again lingering longer the second time. You. Okay, she asked. I'm fine. You don't look fine. Maybe I'm just trying not to think about certain things. Like last night, I didn't answer. She smiled. You were quiet after I said you wouldn't forget it. You were making it hard to leave. That was the point. I sighed. Sophie, don't. Her voice was soft but sharp. Don't make this sound like something ugly. It is messy. Messy doesn't mean bad, she said. Sometimes it means real. We stopped at a crosswalk. She looked up at the traffic light, then back at me. Daniel told me, you're one of the only people he trusts? My stomach tightened. Yeah, he said the same to me. That makes this worse, doesn't it? I nodded slowly. She studied me. So why are you still here? The light changed, and we stepped into the street. Halfway across, she stopped walking. I turned to face her. What are you doing? Her eyes searched mine, and for a second, everything else blurred: the headlights, the cold air, the sound of the city. Tell me to stop, she whispered, and I will. Asterix rain streaked down the windshield, soft and constant, blurring the streetlights. Sophie sat in the passenger seat, pulling her knees up. "I like the sound of rain," she said. "Makes everything feel quieter, except when you're driving in it." She smiled faintly. "You always have to ruin the mood?" "I'm just saying, visibility's a thing." Her eyes flicked to mine. "I think you like ruining moods. Maybe you just like pretending you don't feel them. I feel plenty." "Yeah." She leaned back against the seat. "Prove it." I laughed. "How exactly? Talk to me. About something real." "Like what?" "Like why you always keep people at arm's length." "It's rich coming from you." Her smile thinned. "Maybe I don't with you." Swallowed. "That's dangerous." "Danger's not always bad." The wipers clicked back and forth. I could feel my pulse in my jaw. "Daniel trusts me," I said. "I know." Her voice was low, not defensive. "But he doesn't see me. It's not my place." "Then why are we here?" she asked. The question sat heavy between us. "Because you showed up," I finally said. She laughed once, quietly. "I haven't felt alive in months. You know that? I wake up, go through the motions, and then nothing. Just gray." Grip the steering wheel. "You're not gray, Sophie." Your eyes stopped myself. "I'm what?" "Dangerous," I said softly. Her lips curved, but not in amusement. "That's the best thing you've ever called me." We fell into a silence that wasn't empty. Every glance, every breath, felt like leaning too far over an edge. She reached forward, brushing damp strands from my hair where the rain had caught me earlier. Her fingers were warm. I caught her hand without thinking. My thumb rested against her knuckles. "You know this isn't nothing," she whispered. "I know." "And we're not going to stop talking, are we?" I shook my head. "Probably not." She studied me like she was memorizing the shape of my face. "That's worse than a kiss, you know?" I let out a shaky breath. The rain kept falling, the car warm around us. Still, I didn't let go of her hand until she pulled it back herself. "I should go," she said. "You should." But neither of us moved for another minute. Finally, she opened the door. "Good night, Ethan." "Night." She stepped into the rain without an umbrella, glancing back once before disappearing toward her building. My phone buzzed as she vanished from view. Thanks for looking out for her. Daniel. Asterisk, the music from inside was muffled through the glass. Door. I leaned against the porch railing, beer in hand, letting the cool night air settle my thoughts. The door slid open. "Daniel had to leave," Sophie said, stepping out. "Work called." Again, I nodded. "That's typical." She smiled faintly. "You sound like you know his patterns better than I do." "I just know he's reliable." "That's a good thing. Reliable isn't always exciting." The string. Lights above us glowed soft and golden, catching in her hair. "You're staying?" I asked. "Of course. The night's just starting." She took a step closer. "Besides, you're here." I took a sip, ignoring the way my pulse picked up. "I'm not much of a party." "Not true. You listen, you notice things. Notice you're standing really close right now." Her eyes didn't waver. "Maybe I like standing close." I glanced away. "Sophie, I wish I'd met you first." The words landed like a stone in my chest. I froze. She just smiled, slow and sad. "But life doesn't work that way, does it?" "No," I said quietly. "It doesn't." She let the silence stretch before turning toward the door. "Come inside when you're ready." The moment she disappeared, I exhaled hard. My hands were tight around the bottle. I stayed outside until the air felt less heavy, then finally stepped. Back in, the living room buzzed with laughter and music. Sophie was by the kitchen island, talking to Marissa. I wasn't trying to listen, but her voice carried. "I'm just saying," Sophie said. "He's not enough for me." Marissa's eyebrows rose. "Daniel, you're serious? I don't care who knows." "It's the truth." I froze halfway across the room. My chest tightened. Marissa glanced toward me. "You might want to lower your voice." Sophie smiled like it didn't matter. "Let them hear." I turned away before she could notice me, finding refuge near the front door. My mind was a mess, part disbelief, part something I didn't. Want a name? My phone buzzed. We need to talk. Alone. Daniel. Daniel stirred his coffee slowly, watching the swirl disappear. I'm just going to ask, he said. Has Sophie said anything about me? I kept my eyes on my own cup. Why? He leaned back. She's been distant. I thought maybe she'd talk to you. About what? Anything? Problems? Concerns? We don't really. She trusts you, he cut in. Sometimes people tell friends. What they can't tell their partner doesn't mean Ethan. His voice was low. If something's wrong, I need to know. He forced a shrug. She hasn't said much. Just work stress, I guess. His eyes searched my face, like he was trying to read what I wasn't saying. All right. He took a sip. If you ever hear something I should know, you'll tell me. I nodded, but it felt like a lie. It was late when my phone rang. Sophie's name lit the screen. Why is Daniel checking up on me? She demanded. Before I could say hello? What? He asked if I'd said anything to you. He's fishing. He's worried, I said. He's paranoid, she shot back. What did you tell him? Nothing. Don't lie to me. I'm not. I told him you mentioned work stress. That's it. Sharp exhale came through the line. I'm coming over. 10 minutes later, she was at my door, hair damp from the mist outside, eyes blazing. You can't feed him scraps like that, she said, stepping inside without waiting. I didn't. You did. Now he's suspicious. He's your husband, Sophie. Maybe he should be suspicious. Her eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? I shut the door slowly. It means you've been reckless. Reckless. She laughed. Short. And bitter? You think I'm doing this for fun? I don't know what you're doing. I'm trying to breathe, she said, voice rising. I'm trying to feel something. I shook my head at his expense. At mine, she snapped. Do you know what it's like to feel trapped every day? To look at someone and know you're supposed to love them, but your heart? She stopped, pressing her lips together. Didn't move. Her tone dropped. You think I don't notice the way you look at me? My chest tightened. This isn't about me. It is because I want you. The words hit hard, leaving the air heavy between us. You don't mean that? I do. She stepped closer, closing the space between us. Tell me you don't feel it too. I took a step back. Sophie, her eyes searched mine, wild and desperate. So you don't want me? I didn't answer. Asterisk. Daniel sat across from me, coffee untouched. They're over, he said finally. I set my cup down. When, last week? I hesitated. I'm sorry. He gave a short nod. She's already moved on. Met someone. I looked at him. That fast? Guess so. He glanced toward the window. Guess I wasn't enough. That's not on you. His jaw tightened. You were straight with me when it mattered. I appreciate that. I didn't tell you everything. I admitted. I know, he said quietly. But you told me enough. 2 nights later, Mark waved me over at the bar. You heard? I didn't have to ask. Yeah, Daniel told me. Not that, Mark said, lowering his voice. She's here. With him, I turned, and there she was, Sophie, leaning in toward a man I'd never seen before. Dark hair, easy smile. Her laugh floated over the music, the same laugh that used to cut straight through me. Mark watched my face. You gonna say something, no? Not because it's done. She hadn't called me. Not once I told myself it didn't matter. But when she brushed her hand over his arm, I felt it. Not jealousy exactly, but something sharper. Daniel's words from earlier echoed back. You were straight with me when it mattered. I slid onto a stool at the far end of the bar. You want another? The bartender asked. Yeah, whiskey, neat. From here, I could see her in profile, could watch the way she tilted her head. Like the whole room was background noise. Mark returned. You're really not going over there? No? Closure? He asked clarity. An hour passed before she noticed me. Or maybe she'd noticed the whole time. Either way, our eyes met. She didn't look away. I expected surprise. Maybe guilt. Instead, she smiled. Slow, deliberate, like we shared something no one else. in the room could see, and I realized the truth. It wasn't love. It was never love. Just a spark. And sparks burn out.